Everybody, welcome to day 2 of Business Career Week. We are so excited to have you joining us. And I'm really excited to tell you that we have a faculty member joining us this morning, Jonathan Moore. We all call him John. Hi, John. The best part of these sessions is when we get to bring other people in, so you're hearing voices beyond just our voice. We are once again recording it. So I'm going to share my screen because there are some slides that I want you to see. But today we are talking about creating those transferable skills. So let me share. And then Mick, tell me that you can see the slides.
I can.
Okay. We're not really sure why at the moment we can't see the rest of the people. I'm showing you this slide just so you all know what I look like in a real picture. The rest of the time you get to see what we look like when in real life. And this is John. John, I'm so thrilled to have you joining us. John's on the OPIM faculty for those of you that don't know him. And he does all the really cool stuff with gamification and design thinking, database design. When you get those OPIM workshop messages, they come from John. And at the last minute, I have to tell you, I asked John to join me on this because there's just so much exciting stuff going on in his department. So today's session, we designed these sessions, if you remember, around the questions that students ask us. So it's not just what we thought might be useful to do some workshops in the middle of the semester. We actually reviewed all of our Nexus appointments and said, what are the students asking? What do they want to know? And a very, very, very common is how do I get a job if I don't have the skills that employers are seeking? So the whole purpose of talking for the next half hour is we're going to actually tell you places you can get those skills before you ever set foot into an employer's building. First thought, job descriptions are wish lists. You always should remember is that an employer could put everything on a job description. I want Python, I want Excel, I want financial modeling, I want you to have experience doing database. But those are wish lists. So if you have most of the skills that are listed there and you're working towards other ones, that's still a job that you can apply for and be looking into and talking about. So recognize that you don't have to be versed in every single skill that's listed on a job description. But for the really important ones, how do you get those skills? And this, so if you can see the page that says how to develop the skills before getting the job, can you see that one, Mick?
I can, yep.
Okay, all right, so here's a couple ways that you can do this, and I will, went too fast. I'm gonna share these slides with anybody who wants them after the session, because these are the places right now, when you hang up, we're done with this presentation, you can start to get the experience. So there's a program that's called Parker Dewey that is actually paid temporary assignments, and there's a link on our website to that. Parker Dewey was designed by companies who are looking for short-term project. So example, you might do a 3-week project with a company doing Excel databases or creating a Tableau program for a company that doesn't have anybody on their staff that can do it. They're really quick turnaround assignments. They're well paid, but you do have to apply for them through the system. So there's a link that's right on our website that you create a profile, same way as you do in Handshake, and you can search for these type of jobs. That's the paid way to do this, okay? So if you've got time in a schedule where you already have 5 classes and you're telling me, Kathy asked me to do one more thing and I think I will not be able to handle it, you could do these during the break, you can do them during the summer, you can do them during winter break. At any point in time that you've got time in your schedule, Parker Dewey is a way for you to do that. So you don't have that much time, right? So you might have where you know you've got a couple weeks coming up. Case competitions happen in real time, and now that we're in a virtual world, they're happening as well. Case competitions build teamwork. You're going to find that the experience that you get out of that is completely relatable to any type of project that you'd be doing for an employer. And I'm just going to go through this real quick, and then I'm going to bring John into the conversation. Student organizations, you know there's a new website now on Advising's website. All the student organizations are going virtual, so whereas before, Waterbury student may not be able to participate in Finance Society, now all of these organizations are open to students, and there's enormous potential for leadership opportunities there. Volunteer work, employers are always seeking students who are active in their community. So you will find that beyond them saying, we want you to have good, strong academics, we want you to have some experience, they really want to know that you care about the community in some way and that you're able to put some time into that. So volunteer experience on your resume is as valued as much as that traditional job experience. And one of the things you can do when you're doing that volunteer work is make sure that you're engaging more with whatever community you're working with so you can build the skills you're looking for. Habitat for Humanity has project management skills, the ability to work within a team, prioritize, all of those skills are transferable. OPIM Innovate, that's the one that John's going to talk about in a minute, and I'm going to bring him in for that. Bloomberg certification, when we're on campus, there are the terminals you can use. Now that you're off campus, you can actually do that online. Bloomberg is beyond just finance research anymore. Entrepreneurship through the Worth Institute. Please make sure that you're watching for those emails from the Worth Institute. All that entrepreneurial experience and working with the startups is going to help you build those skills. You're going to get launch programming emails from advising. Every single week, they put some entrepreneurial experience programs in there. And then LinkedIn learning sessions, the free ones, right? So I'll show you that as we get a little farther into the presentation, but you can get free LinkedIn learning training for Python, for Excel, for project management. And we'll show you how to do some of that. So I'm going to switch off of sharing the screen for the moment so that I can bring John in so we can talk a little bit about OPIM Innovate. All right. Hello.
Hello, how's it going?
Good.
I have a whole list of things to talk about.
Excellent.
So just depends how much you want to cut me off or,
Talk away, because the point is that students want to hear from you and they want to know what actionable steps. So OPIM Innovate is the perfect example of that.
Yeah, so before I even kind of dive into that, just a little bit of perspective as far as other kind of experiential learning opportunities that maybe students don't recognize that are really good as transferable in this sense. So like, for example, if you have any capstone courses, look for courses that are service learning. You can actually search in the catalog for particular courses in that space. I do a lot of work with that. So for those of you that don't know, service learning are particular courses that actually do projects in the community and that have kind of a reflection component to them. So there's a lot of that, and being able to translate that, I think, is important. And you can create a lot of connections, taking on those opportunities. Another thing, and you kind of talked about LinkedIn Learning, but I recommend to students all the time other kind of sites, some free, some paid, but some of the big ones, big names, edX, Coursera, Khan Academy, Code Academy. Those are like, and they're not just technology and analytics. They do have a lot of courses in this space or programming, but there's a lot of different skill sets you can go and look. And some of them, they're free, they're open to everyone. Others you could kind of pay to tier up to certifications or kind of some form of credential. So take advantage of those. My biggest advice is, like, if you see a skill gap, don't just wait for a course to become available. Like, you may not have that opportunity with your schedule and everything. And so, fill it, find a way to meet a lot of those job requirements of the ones you're looking at. You also talked about.
John, I'm just going to say one thing is that when you guys are looking at the OPIM Innovate, John designed that for many reasons, but part of it was the employers that kept saying, you're not, the students that are coming out of the program don't have these really quick emerging technologies, the ones that they're popping up right away.
Exactly. Part of the reason why we built that space, the innovation initiative, and opened up the research lab to all the students was exactly as you said. It was to meet that skill gap between what we were able to offer and keep up with in the academic side and what industry was looking for in a lot of these skills. And even though it's emerging tech and analytics, Kathy and I, we've talked many times about how they relate to every single job now. They're looking for these skills in some way or another. Another thing you talked about, case competitions. That's what I was going to bring up next. So out of OPM Innovate, we offer kind of some aligned with our department, some kind of more open and aligned with innovation and design challenges, and I facilitate those. We actually have one I can announce because it's pretty official right now, but there's no marketing yet. It will be upcoming. But the kind of the last part of March, we are doing a traveler-sponsored case competition all around analytics for their business analytics and intelligence team. So this is going to be new. This is something they're doing to try and pipeline talent into that growing program that they have. So more to come about, more marketing to come about that. Anyone interested in that space, please partake. And then just a little bit about OPM Innovate in general. We talked about what it was, but check out the website. There are all the projects we've done. We've done everything from outreach to like K through 12 to programming for classes, helping faculty kind of put emerging tech and analytics in their curriculum or particular classes. We have a space during normal times for like entrepreneurs and people to work on their capstones and different companies or projects they're working on. So we have a bunch of different technology there. One of the other things we do, which is, I believe in the slide deck, is our kind of normally we do workshops, and they're very hands-on, and we have them in our space. In the virtual space, we've kind of moved towards more of kind of hour-long networking coffee chats, which we just find to be a bit more impactful and what students are kind of willing to sit through and get value out of. So this semester we've had an 8-week-long series that we're right in the middle of. You can go check out, register for those. Those are kept very small, so every student introduces themselves, like 10 or less students, and really get to have their questions answered. The big thing that we're going to talk about is hopefully before the end of this semester, we're going to be opening kind of a very soft opening to what we call Vibe, which is our virtual innovation building experience. Right now it's hosted in Husky CT, but it's basically taking a lot of our, what we used to call tech kits, which were in person, in our lab, kind of self-paced activities to, again, upskill yourself. And they had different levels, beginner, intermediate, advanced, around all different tracks of technology and analytics. And we moved as many as we could to the virtual space and are kind of hosting them there. Now this sandbox is, you can kind of go work through it. Right now, we don't have a credentialing component to it, but we are working on that. The other thing that we're going to be using this platform for is to curate kind of educational content that many companies put out. So for example, just as a student with a UConn.edu, you could go to apple.com and you could get special, access and licenses to software and training. Same thing with Oracle. These are some of the companies we're working with, Salesforce, even IBM Watson, which is another platform. Like, you get student accounts, you get to play with a lot of the stuff. You get sometimes up to a year-long license with free training. Sometimes you even get reduced cost for certifications. So what we're trying to do is create like a portal, a one-stop shop for a lot of these, because I know one of the biggest hurdles is students finding, like, how do I find these? How do I know about them? So that's going to be another part of this portal.
Yeah, and the nice thing is that you're given all these resources, John, that, like, if we say it to students, it's helpful, but when they hear from faculty who's actually working with the employers and knowing what they're really looking for, I think it makes a difference. And knowing that you can do these resources free, like for every student that's listening to this now or later, please don't immediately go to something you have to pay for. Because as a student, being part of UConn, you have resources that you don't even realize are available to you for free that other people outside of the academic are paying for. And those are critical skills.
I think part of the skill is, how do you navigate that and figure out, what's important and how do you get access to it? So we're just trying to make that a little bit easier.
Right. I mean, I can see some students that are on the call right now that I know have been on some of our other ones. And so Connor, I'm gonna call on you for a second, because as we go through all these workshops, one of the big things is that we're still trying to figure out like how to get the information to students, right? So Connor, if you could just tell us, where do you get your information? Is it through emails? Do you go through the website? Like, what do you find most useful when we're trying to share resources with you?
Well, I'd say I get a majority of my information through emails, but sometimes I do find that there's like a lot of emails at the same time. So like it's hard to like decide like which one I want to like it almost feels like sometimes I might be getting too much, but I'm here right now, so
Right.
so it works.
Yeah, we only send 30 emails out for this event. How about Instagram? Do you follow the school and the departments on Instagram?
Yeah, I do actually, and I turn post notifications on. That's something that should definitely be encouraged because that definitely helps. If there's a post, I get it on my phone, and yeah, I see it within a few minutes, so that's
All
good.
right. So I see an Alyssa Pelletier on here. Alyssa, do you want to just shout out for a minute about where you find your information? Because, John is sharing such great resources here, and we want to make sure we get them to you. So you're on mute if you just want to jump. There you go.
I would also say that email is like a really good resource for me.
Mhm.
I get a lot of my emails through um, like the Daily Digest or even just like the newsletters that we get. I feel like those are very helpful. Any of the like school business like newsletters that we get.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for sharing and kind of jumping in here. When we are done with this session, I'm going to put my email in there. And please, anybody who's on the session, reach out to me and I will send you the slide deck for what we're going through, because there's so much good information. I want to make sure that you've got some of the links. So thank you for sharing that. I do want to remind anybody, if you've got questions as we're going through this, to throw them into the chat, and then I'll call on you so that you can actually go on camera if you want and join in. But any questions that you have, just let us know. And now I'm gonna switch over for one more minute just to the deck. I just want to show, so this is the website that John's been talking about, the OPI, oops, sorry, it keeps flipping over. The OPIM Innovate Labs, and this is just a screenshot of it. But if you go to the website, John, I think you said that you have your workshops all recorded on there as well, right?
Yes, we do. So every coffee chat and then workshops in the future, we actually are posting the recorded links. So even though we only have 10 students, we still make that accessible to everybody.
Right. Because I mean, we know at 2 o'clock in the morning when you guys have nothing else to do, that's when you want to watch some of these sessions. But it helps because you can watch it and you can pull the information out of it that makes the most sense for you. We do our virtual career Tuesdays, and we have a link on our website called In Case You Missed It, so that you can go in. That's where, when we have the employers talk about the skills they're looking for, you can get an idea of that. So OPIM Innovate, everybody that's on here, please, and it doesn't, again, make sure I'm right on this, John, it doesn't matter what your major is, right? You school of business, all of this is
Can
related.
be anybody. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
You know, we've had students from every single major across everywhere attend our events.
Mm-hmm. And this is, if you can see it on the slide, is it showing the coffee
Yep.
chat? Okay.
So
So do you want to talk about this one for a second?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, we have like one per week on different topics, bringing in, various speakers, professionals in different space. So week one, we had actually a UConn alumni, and she works at Liberty Mutual as like a data visualization specialist. So she came and talked about her experience. Last week, we had actually what's called a kind of a data evangelist, which he worked directly for Oracle, and he talked about databases and how important it was in the field and how to get into it. And he was actually coming from us from the UK, so that was kind of neat. And this week, we have a great speaker. So if you're more interested, so being OPIM, I mean, it's such a wide, category, and everything that we do under Innovate in general is a pretty broad, like emerging technology analytics is huge. We have so many different tracks of things. So it's everything from, like you mentioned, some of the more design focus, like design thinking, more like operations, project management stuff, which that's where Jack comes in. He spent kind of his whole career in e-commerce, logistics, operations, supply chain. So if anyone's interested in that space, that would be a great talk to go to. It's probably one of the less technical ones, but e-commerce is a really interesting, like, it's especially now, right? It's one of the biggest things that we deal with every day. And he spent his entire career looking at this. And then we have a bunch in the coming weeks as well. So I pull that up just so I don't misspeak. Next week, we have a professional that actually builds out augmented reality experiences. So he's talking a lot. He's actually from Apple, and he talks a lot about that. We have someone, actually an alumni of UConn and MIS that works for LogMeIn and does Google Analytics. So he's going to come and speak to that.
Okay.
But you can just kind of see the flavor of all these different things. Like if you're a marketing student, if you're management, like even if you're engineering or in liberal arts, like these things can apply to you no matter what. So I encourage, a wide audience to come and check it out.
And so, I mean, part of what we're talking about is, right, so how you get the skills. And when you attend some of these workshops, we're not trying to just continually give you more things that you need to do. So if you're attending a workshop that John's talking about here, you will be amazed at the insight that the alumni and these leaders in the areas tell you, because what you are doing in your classwork already, the teamwork that you're doing, the competence that gives you to do a case competition, that's where it all ties together, right? So you have people who are telling you the skills that are important, and they're also telling you not just that those are important skills, but how you get those skills, right? So the case competition that Travelers has coming up, probably, is it like a 1 or 2 week commitment usually, but when you listen to some of these leaders, you realize that what you're learning in class is relatable, and you already do have some of the skills that you need to have these conversations. So one thing that I wanted to, go ahead, John.
I was just agreeing with you. Yeah, exactly. I think it's really important. The one thing that I like to show is, and I like to bring in, are people that didn't have traditional routes into jobs, or they found themselves in those. So like, even though you're a particular major and you feel you might be that maybe not what you want to do, or maybe you think that's what you want to do, maybe you won't end up there, right? Like, so I think that's important. And people are like, oh, I could never work for Apple because I'm not techie. But like, that's not the case. There are jobs where people teach technology, like there's sales jobs, there's all these different pieces. So it's not just like being a developer when you're talking about working for Apple. And I think showing that other side of it and how you get into those different roles is important.
Right. And like we talk a lot about like the insurance industry. So, I mean, we're in Connecticut. So Travelers is one of the key Travelers, the Hartford Cigna key employers, but we're not talking about insurance jobs. Like one of the coolest jobs at Travelers is the program that they have for when there's a disaster, right? So they have teams of people that go out after a national disaster that help people put their lives together. So in order to do that, they need to track the weather. They need to know what's happening.
They're not sending people out anymore, Kathy. They're sending out drones.
Really?
Yeah. So Travelers has actually recently bought one of the largest drone companies. So that's another thing of why we have a drones track. Like, because it takes longer to send people out there and emergency adjustments, and a lot of they still do send teams out, but like the idea is that they're actually sending drone fleets out now to do visual analytics, to do immediate adjustments, so they don't have to wait until it's safe to send people into the area. Whole other thing.
That, every time I do one of these sessions, I don't care who I talk to, whether it's an employer or faculty, I learn something new every single day, which is one of the reasons why I love this job. So what I have on the screen right now, if it's showing the screen, Parker Dewey. Okay, so Parker Dewey, this is the link to the website. Parker Dewey is the one that I mentioned. You go in, you create a profile, and you could do short-term projects. You do not have to have really high-level skills for some of these jobs. They want students. They're specifically looking for college students to do this work. So recognize that generally they're local employers. Sometimes they're small family businesses. Sometimes they're startups. But once you create your profile in there, you have to answer a couple questions. And I'm going to tell everybody that's on here, please take the time to answer those questions carefully. That's your interview, right? So it may be a question of, why do you want to work in this industry? Or what is it about my company? That's your interview. So take the time to answer that carefully. And then the companies reach out to you through the Parker Dewey app. So paid internships, all different versions, all different sizes. So that's one of the ones that you can do. Go ahead, Jen.
I'm just going to say, Nelson had a question in chat.
Oh, good, because I can't see the chat when I've got this going. Could you read it?
Yeah. Nelson asked, are we expected to have certain skills to enter case competitions? And I can kind of feel that, and then your perspective as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends. There are a lot of different types of case competitions. Some expect you to have a certain level of skill and kind of are fairly upfront about that. Like they're looking to do a certain level of like come with analytic skills, say for example, because this is the goal, where others
Mm-hmm.
like, no experience required. We're trying to get a team together, get your ideas. And it's, so you got to look into the case competition a little before you sign up or register, or
Mm-hmm.
go to, usually they have kickoff meetings and you don't have to commit. You go to the meeting, see if you're interested, and then you can kind of determine from there, depending on what the requirements are.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And for anybody that's part of BCLC, you would know that Target does a case competition every year. You don't need to have any experience in retail, and the case questions that they give you are usually designed around how you bring more people into the retail environment or learning more about creating apps. So companies recognize the fact that you're joining the case competition to learn the skills too, right? So for the companies that have the $10,000 prize, that's not so much the ones that we're focusing on right here. We're talking about the smaller ones. And companies will come to myself, to our career team, to John, to say, how do we get students interested in our company? How do we get to know the students? And case competitions it's a significant amount of time that the employer puts into this program, right? And the return on investment for them is getting to know the student. Right? They meet you, they want to see your skills, they want to see your ideas, but it's also because they know then they're going to have conversations with you after that about how to join the company.
We also build in kind of mentor sessions for the teams to bounce ideas off professionals, which I like to include in a lot of ours. And honestly, this is a really good way and kind of a low impact way, because in the past, like companies were able to come on the campus and throw these big picnics or barbecues and different events. And that's just really not there for them to get to know students. And the virtual challenges and other events like that, they're not an exact replica, but they meeting in the middle of what we can do now. So I think it's a good alternative for what we're able to do.
Yeah. And I do think that, oh, there you go. So somebody added in my email. I do think that there are ways for you to even be a part of a case competition. Sometimes they are even looking for volunteers to like help, younger members, or to like mentor other students that are part of a case competition. So case competitions are usually like a low lift for you, right? You put a lot of time into it, usually in a shorter period of time. So that's an excellent way. And then I promise you, like when you do that case competition, then you call up or you sign up for a meeting with Judy or Sue or Mick or myself and say, I just did this case competition. How's it going to help me? We can craft and help you craft the language on your resume that pulls out every skill that you did in that case competition. So it adds a level of experience on your resume. So when your resume goes through an applicant tracking system looking for certain keywords, now you've got project management, data analytics, research. You've got that language folded into your resume that shows the skills that you have, even if it's not in that traditional work environment yet. There's so much that you can build out of that.
Excuse me?
Yes,
Can I ask a question?
yes.
Um,
Just say who's speaking so we know who you are.
my name's Nelson. So like, what is a case competition? What do you do in a case competition?
You know, that is such a good question. Do you want that, John, or do you want me to do it?
Sure. We actually have started building that into our, like, we have a custom case competition template now that we do, and part of it's what is a case competition.
Yeah.
We structure it different ways, and there's different words for it. I think about it this way and how we structure it. So again, verbiage could be different depending on who's sponsoring it. But like you've heard like hackathons, those are more like 1 or 2 day things. Case competitions are usually 1 to 2, maybe 3 weeks. And then usually sometimes there's what we call design challenges, which are like potentially semester long challenges that include workshops and mentoring and other things. So there's all different variety of these, but what they are is essentially some form of case. Most of the time, they're focused on an actual business organization that needs a problem solved, and you know, they can all kind of have a different lean to them. So some are more technical, some are more sales, marketing. Like there's different types, different flavors. And the goal essentially is a team works on trying to create the best solution to that problem. And this is a combination of doing research, putting a slide deck together, presentation skills. So you're trying to make the best case possible, the best solution, the most realistic one. So like, you know, don't value like $1 million solution with a very little return on investment, right? So it's a lot of like trying to figure that out and navigate through that with a team. That on a very basic definition, that's what it is.
Nelson, I am so glad you asked that question because, you know, we do make assumptions, right? So, you know, we throw these emails out there, kind of to Alyssa's point, we throw these emails out there in the newsletter saying all these things are happening with just sort of that basic of, well, everybody's going to understand what case competition is, but if you've never done one, it can be intimidating, first of all, right? And the employers that do them come across every industry. So usually you're on a team of 4 other students that you do the case competitions with. And the best teams are when it's an MIS student and a marketing student and a finance student and an accounting student, and you bring all those different experiences to the team. And if we were on campus, you would be, say, upstairs in the, you know, the dean's boardroom. You would present, you'd put your suits on, you'd go in with a PowerPoint deck, you'd present to the judges, and then you get feedback from them. These are the things you did great. These are the things that we'd like to see more of. And then they have, often, sometimes it's a cash prize or, you know,
Scholarships, things like
scholarships. Yeah.
And many of them are preliminaries to like national competitions where you could go and compete. I take a team every year for the MIS international case competition. So we compete against teams from like all over the world. It's really, really cool.
Yeah. And bragging rights, right? So when you're in an interview and the employer says, tell me about a time when you worked on a team, tell me about a time when you had common goals, you could get 15 interview answers out of one case competition, right? So it goes back to that, I don't have a job in data analytics, but I did a case competition. Here's an example of what I learned, what I want to learn. When they ask that interview question, what are your strengths? You can say, you know, project management from something like this. When they ask you that ridiculous interview question, what are your weaknesses? You turn that around and say, you know, an area I want to develop is the data analytics that I started working on during a case competition, right? So this is where the sweet stuff comes from.
That's
you
great.
don't have to have the job to build it.
Where do I sign up? I want to go international for a case competition.
Oh, John, you're on mute.
I was gonna say you have to make the cut. You got to put the work in. The students that so if we have a minute, like the students that kind of essentially rank, and the ones that I put on are then offered into a particular independent study that I run, and with 9 students, limited to 9 students, and we drill every week. And then the top students out of that class are allowed to come and compete. So it's like a whole process because business schools in general, especially in Canada, this is the thing, they're like the best in the world. They teach entire classes based off of cases. They're just amazing. There's a very high level of competition. And so, to get us up to that level, we like just drill, we practice with all different types of cases. And even though this year it's going to be, last year they had to cancel it, this year it's virtual. Every week, Monday morning, my team is presenting virtually. We're practicing. We have like a little boot camp going to prepare. It's coming up in March. So yeah, there'll be spots open for next year if you want to practice and get to that level.
This is Sue, Kathy, and John. Thanks for talking so much about case competitions. And I just want to echo something, John said that they practice every day. So earlier on in the conversation, there was a discussion about how case competitions can be an easy lift. I think it really depends upon the competition. And I too have taken students to competitions, and I don't think I'm saying anything that any of the students that I took would not appreciate in saying that they were woefully unprepared. And part of that, even as an advisor, I felt like, afterwards we had a lot of conversations. So there was some discussion about perhaps even I was unprepared as well. So I do think, what the learning curve is so huge for case competitions. It's just the information, the knowledge, what you can receive. The takeaway is just phenomenal. So if you have the dedication and you want to participate, John would be a great guide for you. So get in there and participate. So yeah, and I just think that it's a skill set that is developed over time. And I think that they're wonderful tools for students to participate in. So on any level, if you have the opportunity to participate in a case competition, I just can't say enough that I think that it's really a wonderful opportunity, and something that really, when Kathy mentioned it, bragging rights on a resume, really it's a great thing to be able to put down on your resume that you participated on any level. So
yeah,
I would say,
thanks for saying that. The easy lift part, I did not mean it would not be a lot of work, but that's
no, I totally get it. Yes,
I get what you're saying, because there are some that it depends how dedicated or how much you want to go. There are some that you could easily be part of, do well, and it's a one-off thing. But there are others where, so it really depends how much you're interested in it, how much time you have to dedicate, or you want to build on that particular skill set. And I would say
each one of them
that,
has
like,
value add.
Right, in different ways.
Right.
And like a lot of times I'll have, underclassmen, they're like, oh, like I haven't gotten my classes yet, my major specific. I'll tell you, 3 years ago, I had an all freshman team win the MIS case competition for all freshmen, and they came in and they were beating out seniors. So don't just think because you're, new or a freshman, whatever, like if you can put in the time and the effort, it's like anything else, right? Like depending on how much time and effort you want to put into is what you get out of it.
Well, a testament to you too, Jonathan.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you know what I just want to say is, we're talking about like these case competitions, right? There's first, second, third place. It does not matter. Like when you're in the case competition, that's important. You want to win. But when you have had the experience and then you reflect back on it, an employer is not going to say that it's not an added value of your skill set if you didn't come in first. What they want to know is the learning initiative and the skills around that. It's not so much on the resume whether you came in first, second, or third, right? So there's, like, to Sue's point and John's point, there's so much value in this. And you know, I know I probably skewed a little bit farther, you know, in our talk today about the case competitions, but it is something that you can look for now, the newsletters that are coming out. You know, John just gave you the scoop that there's one coming out to travelers. It's one of the ways that you can build experience. And I want to be really mindful of everybody's time. So, John, is there anything else that you wanted me to add?
No, I just wanted to thank you for inviting me. I'm glad it worked out. It's very rare that I have an hour.
I know.
It was serendipitous that I could attend. So
Yep.
thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And for the students that are on here, just know that John knew about this about an hour before the session started. We were emailing about something else. I'm like, hey, why don't you join me on this workshop? So this is the kind of faculty you guys have. You got to recognize how great UConn School of Business is and how great our faculty are. So thank you, John, very much for joining us. And before I sign off, does any other students have a question that they want to ask? Because I can stay on for as long as you need. I know we have another session coming at 2, but.
Yeah, and this is Sue again. I don't have a question, but I just want to give a plug that the next session is actually going to be about global perspective as it relates to your career, and which, ironically enough, almost everything Kathy and John have been talking about is really what the next session is about. And I probably will not be as engaging, but but I just, you know, interestingly enough, giving a plug for the next session, but really it's just a nice correlation between your presentation just now and what the next session is at 2. So
I can't make the next one, Sue. So
John,
I have office hours. So.
Trust me, for everybody who's on this call, Sue's going to be more engaging than she's going to even.
Highly unlikely, but at any rate.
Yep.
Don't want to take
All right,
anything away from any students that may have questions, so have at it.
Any questions? Okay, so my email is in the chat. Please send me an email if you would like the slides, because the slides do have links to some of the things that we were talking about, the OPIM, Innovate, Parker Dewey, John's contact information, my contact information. You'll see that the way we designed this week is as we get farther into each day and into each session, they build on each other. And, you know, Wednesday and Thursday certainly go even deeper into where you are in your career search, whether, you know, you have job offers you want to talk about. So I thank all of you for joining us, especially those students that have been on repeated sessions so far. We are so delighted to have you. And I wish you all a good day.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.